to Ryan in Irvine, who I think insinuates that the 49ers play a little bit too much hardball with their guys, and maybe it sends a bad message within the organization.
Don't really agree with it, although the other part that he talked about was, thank you, them,
Cheers.
Their hardball affecting seasons. And I know that Debo, when he had his, I don't even know if it was a holdout, but he had his longer
trade
contract negotiation. Yep. And so he came in and did not have a great year. Nick Bosa last year came in and had a little bit of a slower start, and I think he had a good year. A lot of people look at the sack number and say, oh, he had a down year.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that that's fair when you look at the game like we do. We watch the film, and, I'm in the lab. I watch it 3 times like Guru, usually 4 times if I can. Just to one-up it on the Goo.
I think you're a nut job if you do that, but I admire it. I
do watch the games twice.
You're a crazy person.
I watch it once, and, I watch it the first time as a fan. I'm a football fan. I love the game, and then I do always record the game, and then I'll go back and watch and, try to take some notes and try to, get through it more as a broadcast journalist the second time.
Check out what's going on off the ball.
Exactly.
Yeah, because we don't see that at first glance unless we get a replay or whatever. We're watching the ball.
And normally at first glance, I'm watching it and then upstairs, and so maybe you pause it, you run upstairs, and you're doing a lot of other things. So
she's old enough this year. You need some play dates for that girl on Sundays.
For sure. Like, and now she'll be she'll be in her 2-year-old year, so for sure she's going to be locked in. And last year, toward the end of the year, we had Grandma come over. Shout out Mima. Mima took her in the playoffs, and that turned that game around. If it wasn't for that, it would have been ugly. But
that and my daughter, of course, and her belief.
Exactly.
I was like, get ready. It just looks like we're going home. And she's like, no, we're not. We are not going home.
We're not doing that.
We're coming back to beat the Lions.
Exactly.
And I'm like, well, I hope you're right.
So I don't really agree with everything the caller had to say about, if you're a 49er and you see the way it's gone with Debo, even with Kittle, with Bosa, I think that you see there's a certain pattern. The only one that's gone against it was DeForest Buckner, and you can look at that in one of 2 ways. I look at it as them saying, we choose Armstead over Buckner. You weren't going to sign both. Now, you could say, Buckner's a better player. Why'd you make that choice? Okay. I think that they navigated a certain route, and they thought, Armstead's good. We can pay him less.
He's cheaper, yes.
He's cheaper. We'll pay him less and use this pick, and we'll get a guy who will be, an approximation of what DeForest Buckner was. They were wrong. They thought it would be an approximation sensation, but turned out he was not the player.
Grandy left them.
I actually have it. I have it over here.
Do you have it over there?
Yeah, I have it over here.
Lucas is like, I'm going to go find it. He has no idea where it is. Do you know where it is? Okay, there you go.
That was me, wasn't it?
What?
Oh, no.
You guys You both hit it?
Rain dance!
All right.
I mean, I keep thinking I'm hitting it, but it's actually you because my hotkey not found. Yeah. Something's wrong with my hotkeys.
Your hotkeys are cold.
There's Grandy coming in with a bowl of soup or something.
Anyway, you were saying. Were you saying something?
Something about it being an approximation.
Yeah.
And that's what led us down that road.
No, you're talking about the Buckner thing.
I don't think that if you're a Niner player, you look at the way that they're handling things and you think, wow, they're doing this amateurishly.
I agree with you completely. First of all, we're getting to the point where Buckner is just a huge outlier for everybody that keeps bringing it up. Whenever we
that's
go,
me.
Yeah, well, no, you're not the only one bringing it up. Every time someone goes, hey, Niners take care of their people, someone is right there immediately to be like, Buckner! They didn't take care of Buckner. Well, it's like, okay, that's one person. But I don't think that takes away from, a reputation. If somebody, Dibs, if you get drunk this weekend, I'm not going to be like, you're a drunk. No, that's one time. Bad example. Anyway,
terrible example.
Anyway, if I got drunk this weekend.
Much better. Much better.
Like, that doesn't happen.
No.
What the hell's going on?
2 Manhattans. Yeah. Oh, boy. My head was spinning.
No, that third drink, it is a problem. But anyway, here's what I would like to ask and comment on. Because I've heard it now from a few places. Not a lot. I don't think this is the prevailing opinion. But remember when we came in here last week and we're like, okay, what's your super unpopular Bay Area sports opinion? And it was based on that caller that had called Bonte and Joe and been like, I'm telling you, they're fed up with Kyle. They've had it. These players do not want to deal with this crap anymore. And I was just like, look, I'm not on the Niners. I can't tell you you're wrong, but every fiber in my body is like, that's not my understanding.
Right.
That's not how I see it. That's not how I hear it. That's not what it looks like. That's not what it sounds like. Why is there, again, not a prevailing, but any opinion out there that the Niner players are mad at the Niners? Where is that coming from? Are you just on Instagram with Brandon and Debo? Understand that if you're taking those moments and putting characteristics to them, I would argue that's like defining someone at their most tense moment, their absolute most tense moment. It would be like deciding, okay, my friend is drunk. He does this twice a year. And then when he's loud, you're like, boy, that guy's a loudmouth. Well, no, 363 days a year, he's quiet. But he's drunk today.
Yeah.
Brandon and Debo on Instagram were in the middle of very, very tense, like one time in their career, negotiations. Outside of that, what do we see from Debo? He's at the front of the line dancing.
Exactly.
With a boombox.
Right. He's trying to run people over on a 4-yard hitch route.
Brandon Ayuk and Kyle Shanahan had a thing, and what did Brandon do? He popped out the other side and just went for 1,300 plus yards. I just don't understand where this comes from, the idea that players on the Niners have, quote, had it, or that they're somehow like getting a bad message, or the locker room is this, that, or the other. I am not going to call myself an expert, but
right.
We are blessed with at least the ability to go down, go to practice, talk to people who are very, very dialed in. And I'm telling you, this is one of the reasons I sound the way I do about Kyle Shanahan. Okay? I'm telling you that the Kyle Shanahan regime, I have in my career very rarely heard any locker room sound more in favor of a regime than I do this current group of 49ers and their bosses. I don't know if I could compare it to anything. The Warriors under Steve Kerr are obviously really good, but the NBA is so filled with drama that the ups and downs and the fights and the punching and all of this stuff sort of make me, if we're just talking about messaging to players and how the group feels about being on this squad and this group for these bosses, I don't know if I don't know if in anything in recent memory in Bay Area sports matches it.
You'd have to go back to probably 2014 with the Giants and, with Hunter Pence leading the charge and Bruce Bochy.
And sure.
Right. I mean, after that.
They like me.
They did. And, looking forward to seeing him again later this week. But after that, you did get a feeling, once you got Sabian, you got kicked upstairs, but not really. He got kind of shown the door and then Farhan in and here comes Gabe, and Bruce is forced out, and since then it hasn't really had that same vibe. Pusoy Dos had to get that in the show last year with Jock Peterson on display in Arizona again tonight, but the Giants haven't felt the same. But you mentioned the 49ers, and even through all these contract things, I'm looking at last year, and McCaffrey, 16 games, and Debo played 15, Ayuk played 16, George Kittle played 16. These guys all showed up, played through some injury, some owies, and they played football, and they won, and they played all the way into February. So I don't know where that notion of a disgruntled locker room comes from, because you haven't heard anything. The only thing you heard was, well, I don't even know if the coordinator really kind of knows what we're trying to do here. And,
and that's not even about kind of what we're talking about. That's
I like my Bosa there, by the way.
That's not bad. So he's Steve Wilkes, who's built for this.
Right.
Like that, I don't know. To me, that's.
No, but that was about all you heard, I think.
I could put it, here are the three things that come to mind. There's DeForest Buckner. That was about money. That's over Kyle Shanahan's head.
Yeah.
There was Jimmy Ward. And okay, Jimmy, I don't even think he was necessarily mad at the way Kyle talked to him. He was mad because he wanted to play a different position. And Kyle was like, no, we need you over here. So we're going to need you to do that. Jimmy didn't dig that. Also felt like it was messing with his money a little bit because he's playing a less expensive position. But he did it. And then the other one that I'm forgetting, you guys can help me with this. The defensive back who ended up with the Eagles and then was just out of the league. Gosh, was it the guy who dropped the interception against the Rams? Come on, help me out now. My brain's just going completely far here.
Tart?
Yes, thank you. Tart. All right, so Tart ends up being let go by the 49ers. They allow him to walk. He hooks on with the Eagles basically just for camp, doesn't even make the team, and then had a couple of very mild shots to throw at Kyle Shanahan. And I looked at that and I went, okay, so guy who didn't even make an NFL team is mad that previous team let him go, even though they're probably proven to be correct in doing what they just did. And I'd argue you played your best football under them and didn't really ever do anything else. So am I going to take all of that to be gospel?
Right.
When if we did the opposite right now and just went through the examples of 49ers who have expressed loving this group like crazy, I mean, we'd be here for the rest of the show talking about all of the comments about Kyle's a straight shooter. This organization has no knuckleheads. This locker room vibe is absolutely next level. Go talk to Emmanuel Sanders about playing for the 49ers and playing for Kyle Shanahan, a guy who had spent the majority of his career in other locker rooms. Was literally like the second I got here, it was like, wow, it hit me in the face. Who was on? Logan Ryan was on Colin Cowherd just last week. He's like, I got here and I hadn't even gotten done with my tryout yet. And I'm calling my wife going, you won't believe this.
Yeah.
The vibe is out of control good. Like, I didn't even know organizations ran like this. And there's comments like that all over the place. I just think in the end, the 49ers have bummed everybody out by feeling like they're the best team for a few years and not winning one. And therefore, we kind of transfer that to be like, dudes must be mad. And I'm like, no one's holding that again. No one in the locker room is like, we would have won if it weren't for stupid Kyle Shanahan.
Right.
Like, no, they're all disappointed in themselves.
And players aren't blasting away at the organization when they don't get their contract, or they're not looking to leave when they don't get their contract. You haven't seen any player come out and demand a trade. You've had some social media scrubbing. You've had some players with, poop emojis and other stuff that, that's what players do in the modern day and age. That's kind of the way you negotiate. And, you get mad in April, you're frustrated in May, you're disgruntled in June, you're bummed in July, and then August comes, you get your deal, you come in and you say great things about John and Kyle and Jed and Parag, and then you go out there and you play your best and you ball out and you try to win. That's kind of been the pattern here with the 49ers. I'm interested to see about the Brock Purdy cycle because it feels like, and everyone said to us that we've asked, that one's going to be different. That's going to be like a March or an April, like, okay, boom, you're done. And we're getting this done early, and, we're not going to even sweat this one.
I agree with that. Don't you?
Yeah. It's QB1.
The main reason I agree with that is, Jed York is talking about it a year before it even happens.
Right.
And that's just a white flag. It's just like
you win, Brock.
Yep.
You win.
You want to go put up MVP type numbers. I don't know what it is you think that we're going to do. Like, what would that sound like? John Lynch sits down with Brock's agent. All right, well,
we have the 5th-year option. Hardball.
What the hell are you going to say? If that guy, and again, he's got to, to a degree, he's got to go do it again. But if he remains healthy, let's be real. The worst thing that could happen is he goes down like a peg. The offense,
even 2 pegs.
The whole thing, it's too good. He's too good. What's around him is too good. The play calling is too good. It's just a good football team. Will they be amazing and win it all? I don't know. Will they only be a wild card team? I don't know. But the bottom line is in the NFL, you don't have to be Mahomes. You don't have to be Josh Allen. There are people who are breaking off the Dak Prescotts and the Kyler Murrays and the Jared Goffs of the world. There's not a lot you can say to your quarterback. The agent's going to be like, so what are you going to do if we don't sign?
Yeah.
You playing football next year?
Josh Dobbs. Get ready, Dobbsy.
So that's why I love what Jed York did. It's like, dude, we're not going to try to mess around with this. Can you imagine if this time next year they're like, well, I mean, Purdy's on Instagram being like, bull bleep walks.
Totally.
Money talks. Like, I mean, good God. Like, you can't do that with your quarterback. So
Right.
you don't.
You don't. And also, I think he's much more in line with a guy who might be able to set the market. And I don't think that he's going to set it to the absolute top of the market.
No.
But he's a guy who you would want to sign before any other competitor who's going to get a deal has their deal come in. Unlike Brandon Ayuk, I think, with what you were saying about Justin Jefferson, he's not playing off that contract as, well, he got that, so I'm getting more than that. Brock Purdy, for me, feels more like a guy who could be going over the top of any other deal that gets signed.
I may be jumping this because, I know there's that CBA rule about like the 7th round pick, we can't even do the contract until he's played 3 years. So I don't know what that deadline is. Does that mean they have to wait until after this upcoming season, or do they have to wait for this upcoming season to start? I mean, I'm not even convinced that they won't. I mean, maybe they announced this deal week 8. I don't even know if they can.
Yeah, I thought they had to wait until after his third year, which would mean at the end of the league year, which is in March.
Yeah, but you've seen and maybe my memory's playing tricks on me here, but Burrow and Herbert, weren't those in the year? They were at least in training camp. They were at least in camp, and I think maybe the year had even started already when those deals came down. So. I don't know, and my impression is the same that yours is. We've all been under that impression they have to wait for the year to end. Grandy, do you have something on that?
It is until the year ends. I don't know if there's when the cutoff is. I think the difference is that he was a 7th round pick, and Burrow and those guys are first round picks. I'm not sure exactly where the cutoff point is, but yes, it's for Purdy for a 7th round pick. You got to wait until the 3rd season is over.
Okay. Burrow September 7th.
Okay, so that's opening. That's right when the season started.
5-year, $275 million deal. Wow, 55 per.
Yep,
and not fully guaranteed, of course, but that's
And go ahead and put his numbers next to Brock's.
Yeah,
watch
from last year.
I know, no, but for both years, Burrow has missed 2 years with injury.
Right,
and then the other year he went to the Super Bowl, like another quarterback I know, who also went to the Super Bowl and almost went to another Super Bowl. I mean, again, that's the way this game is played. We can all have, this is the way I feel about it. You can have your opinion, and you might be right that the idea of breaking off Brock Purdy $55 million is a little hot and a little too soon. You could have that opinion, and I could listen to you. Unfortunately, I just don't think that's the way the game works. His agent can walk into the room and be like, here's Burrow's numbers, here's Herbert's numbers, here's my client's numbers. What would you like to do?
Well, Burrow in 2021 had 4,600 yards, right. 4,611, led the league with 70.4% completion percentage. Both of those numbers better than Brock. He had 34 touchdowns, better than Brock, 14 picks, worse than Brock. The TD percentage was 6.5. Brock was at 7.
Yeah, you're 4,600 yards for Burrow. What was Brock last year? 42?
4,280.
Okay, so almost 43. I mean, so really.
It's very close.
I mean, yeah, you're going to be like 300 yards less.
Well, for me, it's more the numbers that I think are even more pertinent are the percentage numbers, because Burrow throws it a lot more than Purdy. So the TD percentage was 6.5. So 1 touchdown for every 6.5 throws. And Brock Purdy was at 7, so slightly better. The TD percentage was higher for Purdy. The pick percentage for Purdy, 2.5. Burrow was at 2.7, so very comparable.
I'm not even saying that Brock Purdy is Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
I don't think that. I wouldn't draft Brock Purdy ahead of those players. That's not the way the game is played.
No, but you mentioned the numbers, and the numbers were very comparable.
And maybe, by the way, maybe he comes in and does get a cut less than Burrow and Herbert fine. You're still north of 50.
Right.
Like, understand this.
Yards per attempt, Purdy 9.6, Burrow 8.9.
Here's the other problem. Burrow and Herbert will have signed those deals 2 seasons before Brock.
Exactly.
The number keeps going up. None of you will blink if I say, well, he's going to get more than Jared Goff, right?
Right.
Okay,
yeah.
well, then now we're north of 50.
Yeah.
So whatever. 52, 54,
doesn't
56,
matter.
Whatever.
Well, and I think that's what makes today's news with McCaffrey even more pertinent because they are freeing up space and they carry that number into next year and they might be able to carry it into the year after, which is when they'll need it, not only for Brandon Ayuk when that number starts to grow, but also for Brock Purdy when he gets ready to get his deal.
And others, by the way. Like, this is a constantly flowing thing. The 49ers, the Ayuk thing is actually not the big banana, if you will. Like, it's a very large contract. And I do think the 49ers, A, planned for it, and B, it's going to be a little more expensive than what they planned for. I think that was actually true with Nick Bosa. They planned for it, and it ended up being a little bit more expensive than what they planned for. That's what took a minute. I think the same thing's going on here. But the big banana is the quarterback, no matter who it is. It's the same for every NFL franchise. You've either got to pay your quarterback or you're not there yet. And you're super blessed when you're not there yet if you've got a guy producing. And when you do get there, now you have to go with what's sort of like plan B, which is the let's win while we are paying our quarterback thing. And I'm just not that scared of that. That's a good thing. It's a good thing if you have to pay your quarterback $50-something million. It means you're a contender.
It is a good thing, but it also means that you're going to have to say goodbye to certain people around you, and so that puts more pressure on your quarterback. And right now, it's easier for Brock Purdy to be good when you've got McCaffrey, Debo, George, Trent, and Brandon all around him.
I'm glad you mentioned Debo. If you have not